I'm Rob Skinner, and this is the Rob Skinner Podcast. Today, you'll learn one of the secrets that enables billionaires and fruitful Christians become even more productive by seeking strong relationships. All this and more on the Rob Skinner Podcast. Welcome back to the Rob Skinner Podcast. My goal is to inspire you to live a no-regrets life, make this life count, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. It is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2024. I hope you're having an awesome summer wherever you may be, whether you're wintertime down in Australia, or you're in Southeast Asia, or you're in Japan listening to this, or if you're in India, that's awesome. Eastern Europe, hey, keep preaching the word there. Or if you're here in the States or Central or South America, wherever you may be, I hope that you are living a no-regrets life right now. It's been such an encouraging summer. In the last 60 days, I've been able to baptize 4 men who are just great guys. I mean, really fired up guys, really excited. They're all there at church on Sunday. Most recently, a guy named Gus and Azavius got baptized on the same day. Azavius is 16, Gus is in his 30s. But just both fantastic guys. You can see that on my Instagram account. If you want to follow me on Instagram, you can see those baptisms there, and it's just encouraging. So check that out on Instagram. And then at the beginning of July, Pam and I went to Stockton, California for a mission scouting trip. And what we did is we got together with church leaders in the Central Valley of California. And that was Gary Simmons and his wife, Chris, Brock and Ann Roby, and Ken and Lena Chow, and John and Jan Oakes. Now, the Chows lead the church in Sacramento. The Robys, they lead the San Francisco Bay Fellowship. Gary and Chris lead a church in Fresno. And John and Jan just started a church that's taken off there in Merced, California. And so we just got together to pray over and scout the city. And so we're kind of in the middle of trying to figure out what is God's will for that city. Stockton's a city of like close to 1 million. It's about an hour away from the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. It's a beautiful city, and it's right on the Sacramento River Delta, or this San Joaquin River Delta. And we're just trying to figure out, okay, is this God's will? So for my listeners out there, if you are from Stockton or know of someone who is, or you might be interested in planting a church, email me at rob@robskinner.com. We are in the kind of exploratory mode right now, figuring out, is this a great planting? I mean, that's what we want to do, is multiply churches, but we're trying to figure out, is this our next spot? But one of the things we're looking for a leader, someone who wants to lead it, and team members, people that want to go there. So maybe you've got family there and you've got a real heart to reach that area. Man, text me or email me, rob@robskinner.com. You can find out more about it. Coming back, I had a great 4th of July weekend with my family there in the Bay Area, and I got COVID. Boom, came back, was sick, and it definitely floored me there for about a week, knocked me out. And anyway, I'm doing better now, but it just like, when's COVID going to totally go away? It does not seem to want to go away. It just keeps coming back. It's like a bad sequel to a horror movie. The guy just can't be killed. He keeps coming back for more and more sequels. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Rob Skinner Podcast. And if you feel like you're benefiting from this program, I'd like to ask you to support it with a gift. Recently, Bruce and Rachel Erickson sent me a really nice gift, and very, very generous. And that support enables me to multiply disciples, leaders, and churches, and inspire others to do the same through this podcast. For example, I was able to use money that people sent to me to support the program to pay for that trip to Stockton. My church can't really afford a trip like that. It's not directly under the mission of the Tucson church, but I was able to afford to go because of support from people like you. And so really appreciate your generosity. All you need to do is go to the show notes and there's a link to support the program. So thank you so much for your support. It helps me to multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. I've been going through a series on multiplying disciples, becoming a multiplying disciple. And way back when I talked about how, I want to be a person that takes whatever Jesus gives me and multiplies it 10 times, like that guy in the Bible that took his mina and he came back with 10 more and he presented it to the king who gave it to him. That's how I want to be when I get to heaven. I want to take the gifts and the blessings that God has poured into my life, and I want to bring it back 10 times to Jesus. I want, when I appear before his throne, like it says in 2 Corinthians 10, I want him to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You've multiplied what I gave you." And so today I want to talk about how multiplying disciples seek strong relationships. Nearly every day, I go through what I call my power pack. This is a collection of scriptures and quotes that fire me up, encourage me, and challenge me to grow, to get closer to God and have greater faith. All they are is 3x5 cards. They're not very expensive, but I've had them since I lived in Japan. I've had them a long, long time, and I just keep adding to them over the years. I pulled one out the other day, and it was a card on which I had written decisions made after a spiritual conference that I went to. I don't even know which conference it was, but it had to be at least 10 years ago, and it read, "Conference decisions" at the top. First, build a sharing habit. Build relationships with strong leaders. Build the church on small groups. Raise the standards and confront difficult situations directly. Concentrate on training leadership, specifically build a training program through interviews, and write a book on small church planting. Those are the decisions I had written down after this conference. I wish I knew which one it was, but I can't. But I can see how I followed through with a number of those decisions. I wrote a book on church planting. That was my first book. I definitely developed a sharing habit, and I've worked on training leadership with my Young Guns group and have forced myself to confront difficult situations in the church directly. However, of all of these, building relationships with strong leaders has probably done more to help me grow than all of the other ones. Solomon wrote in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20, "He who walks with the wise grows wise, but a companion of fools suffers harm." And Aesop said, "A man is known by the company he keeps." Jim Rohn, who's a famous self-development expert, said, "You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." All of these maxims point to the same conclusion. You maximize or diminish your life based on the quality of your friends. I can quickly point to those men who've made a powerful difference in my life through their friendship, their example, their advice. People like Dick G., who is really one of my very first discipling partners. He discipled me early on. Doug Beatty, Ed Townsend, Preston Shepard, Frank Kim, Bruce Williams. Their influence on my life transformed me from a worldly kid into a spiritual man. All of them shared their life and their friendship with me. They mentored me and made time to walk with me, teach me and correct me at times. They were patient when I struggled and weren't afraid to call me higher when I was coasting. My nature is to remain isolated and to try to tackle things on my own. I've had to deliberately choose to allow people into my life so that I can air out my sin and weakness in an environment that fostered growth. It's way too easy for me to tell myself that I have to do it all by myself and should be able to do it without outside support. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I'm reminded again of Solomon's words in Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 5 through 6. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. My pride and fear would often keep me from seeking friendships with men who were as strong or stronger than me in the areas I was looking to grow in. I had to realize that 2 are better than 1. I need someone in my life who can pick me up when I fall down. My marriage is certainly one of those relationships, but that alone is not enough. I need a number of trusted friends who can help me to be a multiplying disciple and have a good return for my labor. recently this summer, I've been watching a series on TV called Undercover Billionaire. And the story goes, they drop 3 well-known multimillionaires. I'm not sure that they're billionaires, but they've got a lot of money. And they drop these multimillionaires into a city that they're not familiar with. And they give each contestant $100 cash, an old truck, a new name and identity, and a cell phone with no contacts in it. The challenge for each contestant is to take their $100 cash and multiply it into a $1 million business in 90 days. What I found most interesting and surprising about each of these 3 people is that the first thing they did was make friends with influential people in their new community. They build their business by building relationships with strong characters in their area. Now, if I'd been dropped off in the same challenge, it wouldn't have dawned on me that that's the first thing I should focus on. But what's so crazy is that Jesus created a similar quote-unquote reality show challenge 2,000 years ago when he sent his disciples off on the limited commission in Matthew chapter 10 and Luke chapter 10. The hidden and yet essential key to victory is found in this passage in Matthew chapter 10, verse 9. Do not get any gold or silver or copper to take with you in your belts. No bag for the journey or extra shirt or sandals or a staff, for the worker is worth his keep. Whatever town or village you enter, search there for some worthy person and stay at their house until you leave. As you enter the home, give it your greeting. If the home is deserving, let your peace rest on it. If it is not, let your peace return to you. If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet. In Luke chapter 10, Jesus echoes this direction by saying, find a man of peace. They were told to find a worthy person, a quality friend, and concentrate on building a relationship with them. Why? Because they'd be able to reach far more people through that worthy person's network of relationships. Good things happen when we build relationships with strong leaders. Now take a look at your friendships around you. Step 1 is to determine if you have some good friendships. Don't be like that man all alone with no one to help him up. If that describes you, it's time to start looking around for at least one good friend. Now, if you're a spiritual leader, if you're a church leader, I want to talk to you specifically because you can get super isolated and feel like no one really understands my situation. You need friends. Secondly, start building the number of spiritual quality relationships. Ideally, you want 5 or more friends that you can turn to when tough times hit. You need people who can offer you advice, encourage you, and keep you on track. Satan loves it when he can isolate someone and take them out like a lion takes out a wounded or young animal. One reason I started this podcast, the Rob Skinner podcast, was to build more relationships with strong leaders. By calling to interview my spiritual heroes, I've been able to build relationships with people I respect and honor. I've learned from them and have grown from the relationship. The number of my friendships has grown exponentially, especially during a time of isolation caused by the COVID pandemic. In the springtime, I had dinner with Brock and Ann Roby, who lead a church in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I asked them if they'd be willing to have a discipling relationship with us, and they jumped at it. And so we talk every couple of weeks, encouraging each other and doing our best to call the best out of each other. Just talked to him this last week, and it was really great. I just shared with him what's going on in my life and in my ministry and the challenges I'm facing. I confess my sin. He talked about what's going on in his life, but it just feels good. It feels like, okay, I've got someone whom I respect, and I've interviewed Brock in the past and Ann about their church planting experience in Hawaii. But I go, it's so valuable to have someone like that in your life. So let me leave you with some practical steps. Number 1, repent of the pride and reject the fear that keeps you from building good friendships. Number 2, stop listening to and making excuses for why you can't be surrounded by good friends. The only thing stopping you is you and your empty rationalizations. Number 3, realize you deserve good friends and you have a lot to offer others. Number 4, what can you do to build your circle of friendships? How can you find a worthy person? Find a meetup, join a club, have someone over, start a podcast, contribute articles to an organization you enjoy. Get involved and find your worthy person. It's so crazy how you can find those people. They're out there. We were looking to buy a car last year, and we ran into an amazing, amazing couple who sold us the car, and they've become friends, and we're reaching out to them. It's pretty awesome. It was great to go to Stockton to spend time with those other church leaders and build the friendships there and make the time. Was that on the master church schedule? No, we just put it together to encourage each other and to foster friendships. That's probably the greatest benefit that comes from getting together. Number 5, make a call this week and set up a time to have fun and start building a friendship. Text, call, email, but whatever you do, don't let another week go by without asking for help. Thanks for listening. Here's how you can help support the program. First, let your friends know about the podcast. Text them a link. Secondly, read and review one of my books, either How to Plant and Grow a Church or Courage, How to Make This Life Count. You can find them on Amazon.com. If you've read one of those books, can I ask you a favor? Can you go back to Amazon and write a review? It really, really helps. And I would really appreciate it, because that's how people can find the book, is if there's good reviews about the book. And right now I think I've got a little less than 30 reviews on the book, but man, if I could just get a few more, it makes such a huge difference. So if you've read one of those books, please take some time to go to Amazon and review one of those books. Finally, support the program with a gift today. The link is in the show notes. Because my goal is to inspire you to make this life count, live a no-regrets life, and multiply disciples, leaders, and churches. Have a great day, and make this life count.